All right, kicking it off here. I'm still getting a bit set up. Mute my monitor here. All right, off to a great start, folks. All right, bring this on down. Just getting everything kind of set still. All right, looking good now. There we go. Yeah, good view of the workbench. All right, and I'm going to turn off. If you've not joined one of the streams before, that sound in the background is that's my dehumidifier. That's because the prints I do like this on my FDM printer, those are done on PLA. It is a plastic that is incredibly hydrophilic. It attracts moisture right out of the air, and that kind of ruins it. It's essentially useless after that. All right, still getting all situated here. All right, I think we are good to get started, and that's really good because I got a lot to do today. The very first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to move us on down this way. I'm going to change our angle here just a little bit so that we can get a view of my resin printer, because today we're going to be doing some resin printing, and this is a big deal. I've not done a lot of this on the channel before, and I'm very excited because the educational nonprofit that I do some printing for, they have made some cool requests, and I'm working on some great projects with them. And I actually have one of the first pieces here. If I open this on up, I'm actually going to turn it off to stop the fan from running, because I'm going to have a little cleanup to do. This is the first piece to come off of here. And, resin is not something you want in your hands. I'll just say that up front here. So I'm going to throw some gloves on. And I'm going to get out some paper towels because stuff's messy. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and open up one of my containers full of isopropyl alcohol. All right. So the first thing I have to do here, this is a print that might not be terribly apparent to an onlooker of what it is upon first glance, but that is a horse tooth, and it's a big print. For resin prints, this is a chunky boy. And you'll notice there's actually two rafts on here. That's because there was supposed to be a second one that printed and it failed. So that's going to require a little bit of machine cleanup before I go on. But for now, I think this will be the best angle for this. I'm just getting under here with my little blade here, and I'm just taking it right off of the print bed so it can fall in the isopropyl alcohol, not splash too much. There it goes. And then I'm also just going to get this piece off of here. It can fall wherever it wants because I'm just going to throw it away. Now I'm going to set that out of the way, and I'm going to hang this back on here. This is the build plate. Resin printers do print upside down from the orientation you would think of with an FDM printer. All right, so a little bit of quick cleanup here. Throw this away. And then I'm going to take this tooth print. And you'll see here, this is the raft that keeps it attached to that bed. And then all this little stuff here, all that little bridge work that looks like the bottom side of a roller coaster, that's all just support material to keep this piece stuck. So I'm just going to pull all those off real careful. Want a real good clean piece out of this. And yeah, that's looking really good. Those are just parts of the actual print. So I'm going to give it a quick rinse here in the isopropyl alcohol, and then I'm just going to set it on some paper towels for a minute, and I'm going to keep this alcohol out here because I may need it in a second. But because that print failed, that means that down at the bottom of that bed there's a clear plastic panel that an LCD screen, LED screen, shoots ultraviolet light through in very specific ways so it can print each level. It makes incredibly high resolution prints. It's amazing what these machines do. But because there was a failed print, that means somewhere down there, there is a hardened bit of resin that is stuck to it. I have to get that off before I can run any additional prints. So I'm just going to get you folks all set up here so you got kind of a view of the whole area here. I think that'll work. And what I'm going to do, this is the container that the white resin came in. I'm going to funnel what's left in the vat back into here for use again in just a little bit here. And for that I have just a funnel and a little filter. And very carefully I'm going to take care of this now. And you want to try to keep everything as clean as you can as you go, because the last thing you want is a bunch of resin on that screen down there. Very bad for the machine. Alright, so I'm going to pour this through the filter. A little bit of a slow process to do, but certainly worth your time. You don't want solid chunks of cured resin or even older chunks of resin really mixing in there, and this filter will keep everything nice and clean. Alright, that's probably as clean as I need to get that. You can see that is the chunk of hardened resin I was talking about in there, and in just a second I'll give you a better view of that. Yeah, you can see this bit here, not supposed to be stuck to that little membrane. So to get that off, a person's instinct might be to get in there with this. You'd never want to do that. You never want to do anything that could puncture this. And then they do provide you with this much softer plastic spatula. Even that I try not to use if I can help it. What I actually find works, and I'm going to do my best to get this on screen, is if I push from behind, you hear that? That was it releasing, and you can see right there, it's coming up. So I do that. I push in a couple other spots just until it releases, and I just get in there with my fingers, and now that tricky bit of resin can be thrown away and can be not my problem anymore. That was about as low a stakes a cleanup fix as you can hope for. Kind of perfect for the stream because I don't want to take up too much time doing machine maintenance. All right, I'm gonna lock everything back in place here. I think it's all looking good. Pull that filter out of there. Take this out of there. And I can go right back in with the exact same resin. I like to pour from a little bit up high. It kind of helps take care of any air bubbles that might be in there, although the actual motion of the machine usually is enough to take care of that. But you never know. You don't want to find out the hard way that it didn't work. And this is a little trick, not always necessary, but I get a little bit of the resin on my glove and I'll just rub it up here on the build plate. That way there's a little bit stuck to it. So when it goes to cure the first layer, there's something there. There's no chance that it catches an air bubble of any type. All right, get my lid back on this. And now I'm gonna go ahead and put this cover back on. The nice thing about this cover is it's UV resistant, not a big problem here in the basement where I've blacked out the windows and there's no natural light of any type that can mess with how this resin cures. The other thing that's nice is it keeps dust and other things from getting into the resin, which can destroy your prints. I mean, in a hurry, it'll mess everything up, but good, let me tell you. And the other thing that's nice is it keeps a lot of the fumes from the resin as it's curing from getting out. This is the Elegoo Mars 2 Pro, and it actually has a charcoal filtration system with a fan that keeps fresh air coming out of it and kind of keeps all the toxins inside. So, you know, safety first. Eventually, I am planning to get a vent hood down here so I can print with some more complex filaments, and you know, something like this, it wouldn't be as big a concern if, say, the charcoal filter gets a little old and I forget to change it. It would all be vented out anyhow. So I'm going to set this to run another print. Like I said, as you can see, this is a horse tooth. It's a sizable piece and it's very cool looking. But horse teeth come in a lot of different sizes. The organization that I'm working with ordered 10 sets of these for now. and there are 15 different teeth in every set. The smallest tooth is probably about 1/5 the size of the area of a penny. So it's quite small. So all 10 of those fit on one print together, which is great. I can get all 10 of those, boom, done. That's 1/15 of all my printing done in one print. And if my slicer app, Chitu Box, was any example, that print should only take about 25 minutes. So I should have a print done, ready to pull off of here. And in fact, depending on how you look at it, 10 prints done, ready to pull off of here before the stream ends. So I'm going to set it to run, and then we will come back to that afterward. Just going to find the right one in my menu here. That's the one. All right. And there it goes. So that's going to work away. And in the meantime, we've got some work to do with this tooth because it is not done yet. It needs to be thoroughly cleaned so that you can see this sort of sheen that's on here. That is uncured resin. And we got to get all that off of there, and then it's going to go into the curing box. So we are going to relocate back over to the main workbench area here. And I'm going to, for the first time on this stream, show a couple of my favorite toys. So these two machines here are pretty awesome. They're two of my favorite things. This is an ultrasonic cleaner. Inside of here, it is full of isopropyl alcohol. And I can just take a piece like this and set it inside. And when I start this timer, it's 180 seconds. It uses ultrasonic vibrations, essentially the same thing as if you like set it on top of a loudspeaker that was rumbling. And it just pulses through that liquid and cleans the entire piece off way better than I ever could. And because it's a very gentle way of cleaning, there's no chance that you can damage the finish because the resin is not fully cured until it goes through the next machine. So a lot of folks, you'll see them use isopropyl alcohol in, say, a toothbrush or something like that. You can streak up your print if you're looking for something that's really authentic and has a lot of smooth surfaces. This will prevent that. So I'm going to go ahead and kick that on. Yeah, you can hear it running there, that little wee. I like to set a bottle on top of it, keep it low. That way, as all that shakes, any of it that wants to evaporate away, I'm not losing the isopropyl alcohol because in large quantities, it is quite expensive. All right, I'm going to bring your power cord back over here and plug you all in so my phone doesn't die in the middle of the stream. All right, so right next to that is this little guy. And what this is a ultraviolet curing box. It is very inexpensive, and when I open it up, I can show you what's inside. There's a turntable that spins automatically, and in the back is just a single strip of light that is LED UV light, ultraviolet light. So once this is out of here and clean, and I've got it good and dried off, I usually try to air dry it a bit so that there's not any extra isopropyl alcohol stuck on it. I want it to be a nice even cure when it's in here. I'll set it in here, it runs for 10 minutes, and at the end of that time, it is fully cured because light reflects off of white surfaces. So that one little strip back there in the rotation and the clear plate, that's all it takes. So we'll get to that in just a minute. That's going to be great. So like I said, I'm printing horse teeth for an educational nonprofit. Not exactly the free time freelancing stuff that I envisioned for myself, but it makes a lot of sense. My career outside of pro wrestling has been largely for educational nonprofits, up until recently when I got the offer to go to Japan, and now I'm going to be wrestling full time. You'll recall last week I was printing, these are vertebrae from a large snake called a titanoboa. And what's cool about these, because they are spinal vertebrae, you can actually sort of see there's a ball and socket joint and another matching sort of triangular joint. And these actually mash right up with each other. And you can start to see, when you stack them the right way, how the spine of the snake works, which I think is just, I mean, what a cool and nerdy thing to be able to make with a 3D printer in your own house, just a snake spine. Again, things I wouldn't have thought that I'd be doing in my spare time. So that's where I'm at with that. That print's gonna run. This has 20 seconds left on it, and then we're gonna dry that off. I still have 2 of these to get the supports off. For anyone who was here last week and may have watched, it is a bear to get all the support material off of here, and that just comes down to a decision I made. You can set the supports up in many different ways. I chose the way that was the safest, where I would get no failed prints, and I would get a very high fidelity on these, where you can see there's so much detail on each of these pieces, even black, which doesn't always show everything so well. There's so much detail there, and for an FDM printer, a filament printer, that's pretty remarkable. And it's an entry-level printer. It's an Ender 3 Pro. They're some of the cheapest printers you can get, but they are also fairly open source. You can mod and change them, and people have uploaded 3D prints so you can add stuff to them. Really cool. All right, so the ultrasonic cleaner has finished doing its magic. So I'm going to take our tooth out of there. Try to keep all the alcohol inside of there. All right, and now we're going to head back over. This for a long time has been the area that I kind of consider my resin print finishing area. And literally all I'm going to do over here is just pat it dry with a paper towel. Try to get as much errant isopropyl alcohol off it as I can. And then it's really just a matter of letting it air dry. And sometimes I'm a little impatient. I'll set it in the general vicinity of like a space heater, so that it's got a little bit of warm air blowing at it. You want to be careful when you do that, because if you heat uncured resin, it can expand and it can crack your prints. But I tend to keep it pretty far away and keep the space heater set to a pretty low temperature. All right, so I'm going to set that there, and I'm just going to let it air dry of its own accord for a little bit. But, I mean, you can already see, you know, this is a very cool piece. This is, again, a horse tooth. And you don't always think of what they might look like, how big they are, or how they're shaped. But that's it. And I mean, for scale, I've got pretty big hands. You know, I'm a big guy, 6'3", and that tooth is most of my hand. So pretty remarkable. But yeah, I'm gonna set that there and let it kind of just do its thing and air dry for a few minutes. Meanwhile, I'm gonna bring you back over here. And I'm going to get some of the supports off of one of these pieces. And once I finish that, excuse me, allergies have been catching up with me here, folks. Once I finish that, we'll go ahead and we will throw that in the curing box, and you get to see how that works. It's pretty cool. All right, and I can lose the gloves for the moment now, because that no longer has any uncured resin on it. I will need more gloves when I retrieve the other print, but we're a little ways off from that now. So yeah, again, anyone who watched me doing any of this work last week, it is a pain in the butt. And it's pure, it really just does come down to, I wanted the prints to be high quality. That's all there is to it. So let's see what I got going on this week. Thursday. Iron Rip Bison and I, mutually assured destruction. We will be returning to Wrestling Open for the first time in 6-8 weeks, something like that. I mean, we were there last week just to cheer on Delmi Exo, who, for those who don't know, is you know, she is a very dear friend of mine, and has a relationship with Rip Bison. I think is about as descriptive as I get. They're a couple. They've been a couple forever. They're everything shy of married. But yeah, we went out to watch her, support her, cheer her on, and hang out with some friends, which was, you know, always a nice thing, you know. The world of pro wrestling is a small one, so getting to spend some time amongst your peers is always a good thing. Yeah, a lot of this support removal comes down to just cracking and pulling and twisting and jamming sharp objects into things. I actually keep a rubber mallet right here, so that sometimes I have to kind of bang a knife into a spot that it doesn't really want to go. which, you know, for those of you watching at home, not super safe. Don't, you know, maybe don't do this. You know, even if you're a grown adult, maybe find another adult to supervise you. You know, the last thing I want to do is have someone copying the way that I do this and hurt themselves. Although, you know, that's your problem. If you're taking advice for how to do something safely from someone on Twitch, that's boy, got to rethink that one. So yeah, Sunday, feels like yesterday. Sunday, I went to a concert with Johnny Torres, and you know, famed New England wrestler, now turned announcer for Blitzkrieg Pro, Limitless, Pro Wrestling Grind, Let's Wrestle. You know, he's one of the primary voices of New England wrestling. You know, barely a week goes by you don't hear his voice on IWTV or YouTube. And he and I hit concerts up a lot. Usually it's mutual interest, you know, going to see Less Than Jake or something like that. And he came with me to see Weird Al one time, which of course was, you know, I think for pretty much everyone, certainly for Torres, he told me as much, a bucket list concert, you know, something that he felt he just had to do. For me, I go to every tour, so, you know, it was a given that I'd be there. But yeah, yesterday we went and saw the Gaslight Anthem, who I was not terribly familiar with outside of knowing that Johnny Torres is a big fan. And I can't, you know, I really can't recommend enough going to something with your friends where they're a big fan of it, because, you know, few things in the human experience are kind of as interesting or cool as watching other people really get a chance to experience something they love. It's kind of, for the last week or two, you know, leading up to Taylor Swift's shows in Gillette Stadium, TikTok geographically knew where I was and assumed statistically that I was interested in knowing how the tour was going. They weren't wrong. I like Taylor Swift. Who doesn't? I mean, I feel like you kind of have to. You know, she's great. And so I see a lot of clips of TikTok clips of people at Taylor Swift shows the last couple weeks. And man, you talk about a group of people having a great time. Oh, snap the blade of this knife. Well, that's not of use to me anymore. Swiss Army knife makes a great knife, but apparently 30-something years is about as long as you get out of it. Now, before I snap this one, find a different port of entry here. Yeah, so like I said, Thursday, MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction, myself and Iron Net Bison, we returned to Wrestling Open. Pretty psyched for that. If you are so inclined, you can you can message Beyond Wrestling or Wrestling Open, and you can sponsor me and Rip Bison. Delmy Exo will also be wrestling there. The Rabid Honey Badger Ryan Mooney will be in action there. Or my good friend Andy Brown will be in action there. You know, a lot of the Grind roster will be there because Friday, Pro Wrestling Grind presents in East Hampton. Emerald Sword, going to be a big show. Very excited for this show. It is the beginning of a whole new chapter for Pro Wrestling Grind. Jay Freddy, the inaugural champion, held the belt for, close to a year, I suppose. And at the last show, he tore his Achilles tendon. Terrible injury. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, especially not Jay Freddy. Jay Freddy was an incredible first champion for Pro Wrestling Grind. You really can't ask for a better champion, let alone first champion, than Jay Freddy. He's an incredibly hard worker, so giving. You know, he wants success for not just himself, but for the entire company and everyone involved. And yeah, to see him go down with an injury like that was a real bummer. You know, wishing the best for him for a quick recovery. But, you know, it's a pretty serious injury. still finished his match with a torn Achilles. He hit 2 Shining Wizards and a Tiger Driver. I don't know. The guy is, you know, you hear people talk about being built different, but boy, that is a big version of built different. But yeah, this Friday, well, there's my chunk of broken knife. Just gonna throw that away. Yeah, if you've never been on one of these streams, I keep my old protein powder containers as a sort of desktop trash container. They work really well, and when they're all finished, I just put the cap back on it and throw it in the trash. It's really convenient. So Friday, Pro Wrestling Grind. We have 4 fatal 4-way matches to determine the 4 new #1 contenders to the Pro Wrestling Grind Grand Championship, all of whom will go on to a fatal 4-way match at the, I guess it's named now. Rip says he came up with the name, but I haven't heard it. So as yet unnamed, or at least as yet unannounced for a name, July event for Pro Wrestling Grind. And I am in one of those qualifying matches. I'll be going one-on-one with A-Game Joseph Alexander. I'm very excited about that. He is an incredible young talent. You know, he came into Grind and very quickly established that he was going to be a big part of the company, and he's kept that up ever since. You know, I think you see him popping up a lot of places now, and that's no accident. He is very good, and he's very talented and very well rounded. He does a lot of different stuff. He's an incredible technical wrestler with a big personality, and I personally like him a great deal. Hanging out after Grind shows with Rip and the crew, and he's there. I like him a lot. He's a hoot. But yeah, he and I going one-on-one Friday for a chance to be in the fatal 4-way for the championship. That should really be something. Checking on this tooth down here. All right, that's coming along. Yeah, I'm looking forward to mixing it up with him. I think we have a good clash in styles. You know, he's not really known for his brawling. He's not really known for his power moves, but he's got both. And I'm not really known for my technical wrestling, but I can assure you, I know what I'm doing on the mat. So I think there's enough clash in our preferred styles and enough crossover in what we're capable of that there's a lot of room for a lot of different ways it could go. So yeah, looking forward to facing a young up and coming talent who's gonna push me to be my best, and hopefully I'll do the same for him. Whew. Yeah, this is like I said earlier. These things are a bear to take apart. You know, it's a lot of support material, very nearly as much support material as the actual finished piece. All right, now we're getting somewhere on this. All right. But yeah, the Taylor Swift concerts, the footage I've seen of those, really remarkable. I mean, you talk about something just incredible. I mean, Gillette Stadium with 70,000 people 3 nights in a row, and every night there was 20,000 more people outside the arena watching, just because they were dying to see the show. Alan in Northeast, hey man, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. It's cracking away now. Aha, aha, ha, ha. Yep. I hope this is exciting to everyone else. I know the footage can't be terribly captivating, but you know, maybe you enjoy listening to me ramble. Yeah, having a ton of fun struggling away on some 3D print stuff. I'll have something more exciting in just a couple minutes. I have for anyone, I see there's a few folks watching. For anyone who may have joined late, these are snake vertebrae that I'm printing for an educational nonprofit, and I also have some horse teeth I'm printing for them. And I have one of those that I've pulled off the printer and it's just about ready to go. And I'll be putting that into the curing box here in a minute, and I'll get to show that off. It's a cool little toy that, I mean, essentially the sun would do the same thing for me, but I'm impatient and it's nighttime. So, you know, it's an inexpensive tool considering what it's capable of. And it gives a good even cure to the UV resin prints because, you know, the sun can only face one direction at a time, but this particular thing has a little turntable in it and surrounds it with light. So, yeah, all right, there we go. But yeah, so definitely tune in to Wrestling Open tomorrow night, Thursday, at 8 p.m. Eastern on IWTV. Me and Ripper will both be there. Mutually Assured Destruction. I'm not totally sure what we're doing just yet, but I mean, I know what we're going to be doing. We're going to be raising some hell and throwing people around. I just don't know who. So come along and be surprised along with me, I guess. Yeah, I wonder just how cringy this is to watching someone just stab at a hard chunk of plastic with a knife over and over. It's got to keep you on the edge of your seat, right? Everyone's just waiting for the moment where Perry, like, loses a finger or something. I don't know. I'm sure everyone has their reasons for tuning in. Setting bits of plastic all over my workbench. All right. I'm going to call that a good start for the moment, and I'm going to take care of this UV print because I got more coming right behind it. All right, so this, looking pretty dry now. This is a 3D print of a horse tooth, and I'm about to throw it in the curing box. So pretty excited. This is the sort of the last step in finishing this. Let's see. I'll be headed to Fight Life in CT tomorrow night. Can't wait, especially to meet Masha Slamovich. Hope you and Rip will be. Blitzkrieg. Rip and I will be at the Blitzkrieg Pro Luau in July. We are the #1 contenders for the Tag Team Championships. We'll be challenging 35mm, Angelo Carter and Jay George. And, you know, hopefully taking those Blitzkrieg tag belts to Japan with us. Make them into world titles. So this is my resin curing box. If you're just tuning in, it's such a simple little device. It's a white reflective plastic box with a see-through turntable. And in the back, there's an LED strip, and that LED strip actually produces UV light. So what I do is I just take one of these, and it doesn't really matter how I orient it. I set it inside and close it up, and it's got a little control on its plug here. Assuming I can find where it is. I recently moved a lot of stuff around in the shop here, so yeah, so it's got a little control here, and I'm just going to tell it on, and you can see that it's running now because that UV light glows right through, and I don't want to do anything that'll damage the lens, but you can actually see the reflection moving there. That is the whole piece moving around and around on the little carousel. So that runs for about 10 minutes, and we'll be able to yank that out of there. I do have another 3D print running right now that's actually most of the way done. It's only like a 20-minute print, so very excited for that. And yeah, Alan, I'm excited for you to meet Masha Slamovich. Masha is a good kid. She's someone I've known for quite some time. We actually met, of all places, we met when we were both performing for Kaiju Big Battle in the big foam costumes as monsters. That was when she was brand new, and then we attended a little seminar with Marvelous, the Japanese wrestling company, back in summer of 2019, just a few months before the world closed down. Shortly after that, she actually went over and stayed for a year at Marvelous. She got stuck out there in the pandemic. She went out and stayed past when they closed, you know, everyone's back and forth privileges. Delmy was actually with her, and because she had some family things going on, she came back a little early. She beat the travel closures by maybe 2 weeks. So she ended up back home. But yeah, after that, you know, you live in a dojo for a full year before travel stuff comes back up. Masha came back a very different competitor. You know, I think it was really good for her. I think she would tell you the same. But yeah, really exciting to see where she's gone since then. Yeah, and I hope you have a good time at Fight Life tomorrow, man. Fight Life puts on some great cards. You know, it's living here in New England and being part of the wrestling scene. It's, you know, you see everything going on everywhere, and man, they book some incredible talent. They book some great matches. You know, you love to see that kind of stuff coming in the area. And yeah, I hope they have a great show. Yeah. Masha's work and impact has been really something else. She's gotten to work with some incredible talents everywhere. I know. I believe she's the West Coast Pro champion currently. If I'm recalling that correct, I'd have to check with my buddy Levi Shapiro, performer and producer over at West Coast Pro. He's actually on his first trip at Disney World right now. You know, as a California boy, he grew up going to Disneyland, which is my preferred park. But he's getting his his first experience with Disney World currently. He took a trip out there, so I've been watching his Instagram stories and keeping up with what he's doing because you know, in between trips you get a little bit of Disney withdrawal, or at least I sure do. All right, yeah, we're getting there now. Not a whole lot of the support stuff left. This is the part where it gets a little messy because there's not a lot of areas where you can really get in there and get a lot of purchase on what you're trying to remove. But yeah, if it seems silly to anyone else that I'm having to use a rubber mallet to break plastic apart, I assure you, it seems silly to me too. But just know, if you've ever bought a Perry Von Vicious monster truck toy or the Mad Monster tank toy, this is the kind of work that I have to go through on all of those. And with those, I even, you know, I have to paint them when they're done, and you know, there's parts that need to be glued together, so there's quite a bit of work that goes into those. But you know, it's a small price to pay for something that you're, you know, really proud of. And that's something that was something I decided when I started working on my own toys, was I wouldn't make anything that I thought wasn't good. If I was impressed by it, if I thought it was cool, then I would let the public opinion at the merch table make the call. Yep, that was the Swiss Army knife biting me a little bit, which was bound to happen. Just a little cut. All right. So we got this guy working away here, and in just a minute we're gonna have, yeah, really just a minute or two here, we should have the next set of teeth done on the resin printer. So pretty exciting that it's all coming together here. One day I want to run an interview with you on my YouTube channel. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a great time. You know, I enjoy being the subject of interviews. In particular, I really like being interviewed when we talk about things beyond just wrestling. I've always found that that's some of the most fun that I have on podcasts and such. So close to having both of these done so we can take a look at them. Yeah, I'm off camera right now, super gluing up a small cut on my thumb Fun stuff. That's what you want on the live stream. But that, that's the danger of a live stream, right? You know, anything can happen, I suppose. Tomorrow in my match, they're going to work my thumb. Go right for it, I bet. All right. Cleaning up here just a little bit. But yeah, I'm super jealous of Levi right now. He's in Disney World and seems to be having an absolute blast, you know, and it's, you know, I mean, how do you not, right? All right. Just about ready to move on with these resin prints here. All right. Got a little water here. Let's this would be my technical difficulties playlist moment. All right. Just about ready to take this stuff on here. I'm grabbing a couple gloves here because I'm going to be handling resin prints, and you really don't want that stuff on your skin. It's not good for it. The Disney park's way too far away, way too damn expensive. Yeah, the Disney parks can be pricey. You know, I'm kind of lucky with no kids and a small homestead. You know, we keep our expenses really low, which is great. All right. So, just cleaning up a little over here, moving a couple things out of the way. Come back to those prints in a little bit. All right. So this is pretty exciting. Let's see. How do we do? Oh, hard to say. I can't tell if my resin print came out over here. So you're going to find out in real time. You're going to come with me. This could be just one long episode of failure after failure for all I know. All right, so taking the lid off the resin printer, and until I flip this over, it's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, it actually looks like it's altogether possible that all of those prints failed, which is pretty surprising. That's not regularly that's not something that happens to me very often. All right, set this here. Clean off a bit. Turn this off. That means I definitely have stuff to clean off of that again. So yeah, looks like we're going to end up doing a bunch of machine maintenance on this episode. Who knew? But for now, the curing box is finished running. And that's exciting because that means that this horse tooth is now fully cured. And I think it looks great. I'm going to actually bring you over here where we've got a little more contrast to the shot. You can see a little better. But yeah, that's one of the horse teeth that I'll be working on. There are 15 in the sets, and they ordered 10 sets. So I've got 150 different horse teeth to print out and sort and get sent off. So yeah, a lot to do there. All right. Close that up. Move my mouse so I can see. Yeah, we got about 15 minutes left. So I'm going to come back over here, and we're going to do some machine maintenance on the resin printer because it's not wanting to do what it should today. Not an occurrence that happens to me all that often. So the first thing I'm going to do is get all these little failed, these are the rafts that the prints stick to, or in this case, did not stick to. I'm just going to pop all of those off of here. Get them all off, and then grab a paper towel and get this whole piece good and clean. That means all sides, because in a minute I'm going to need it hanging up on the machine. And the last thing I want is for any errant resin to drip down onto the little film on there. All right, so I'm going to hang this up. Now, bring this over here, get this open. I might switch to a newer resin. This resin's a little old, and that could be part of the problem that I'm having. But either way, I am not a wasteful person, so I will be dumping it back into its container in the hopes that if it is still usable, I can retain it and use it again in the future. All right, so dump this through its little filter here, which I know is not totally happening on camera, but that's okay. I did it earlier, and it's not all that exciting, I assure you. All right. Get that dumped. Get the edge cleaned off. All right. And now, like I said earlier, there's these bits that kind of get stuck on here. And I got to just get my finger under there, and you see I'm pushing up from the bottom, and that's enough to kind of get them all loose. And they're little ones, which are trickier. So once they're loose, I can just bat them with my finger, and yeah, they're all coming right off. They're just sliding around. So that's good. All right, and yeah, you can see, in fact, much more clearly, all the little bits of supports that tried to stick but didn't stay. Yep, that's what went wrong. Well, easy fix anyway. All it takes is a good bit of cleaning of the machine, and then I'm going to re-level the print bed, which is usually a bigger issue on FDM printers, but apparently my resin printer has not been liking the change in temperature, and I'm assuming that that's probably what's causing most of my issues right now, is just the expansion and contraction that, you know, metals naturally have when temperatures change dramatically, which they have been lately. You know, I'm down here in the basement where, you know, it's not heated, but, you know, it's usually pretty good. But, you know, we had a random late season freeze, which has wreaked havoc on the garden, of course. And, you know, then we've also had some random early season heat. I mean, we've had days where it was in the 90s. So, yeah, a lot to contend with there. All right, so I'm going to take a little of this isopropyl alcohol with a clean paper towel and get into this print bed and give it a little bit of cleaning, because I want all of those little bits out of there so that we've got a real good crystal clear film on the bottom here. But yeah, hell of a thing to cut my thumb live on the stream earlier. Very Mick Foley, you know. It's good for business. It's, you know, red equals green, brother. Don't expect me to go blading on any shows. This is strictly for the stream, purely for the online audience, just the hardcore fans, you know. I mean, the much simpler way of describing it is I'm using all the wrong tools to do some very difficult work on some very stubborn 3D print supports. So, you know, I said right off the bat, don't do this at home, and now you know exactly why. All right. Getting a lot of these solid bits out of here, and now there's just, you can see what's left on there is those little bits on there. You got to get all of those off there because the UV light can't penetrate through this with those stuck there. So every one of them has to come out of here. All right, I'm gonna take this mostly clean paper towel and just use it to get a good bit of alcohol in here. Right. And then just very carefully going to do my best to remove these pieces. And right now they're all soft because they're not fully cured resin, so I may end up having to it's a thing I don't like to do very often, but I may have to clean this as best I can and then put it in the curing box to cure up that resin, and then it should come off a lot easier because it'll be really solid and it won't want to play along with the flexibility of the membrane. Spider crawling up my leg. The joys of working in your basement. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna cheat and put this in the curing box for a minute just to solidify those bits. All right. Now that's looking pretty clean. So I'm gonna take us back over and just quick as I can, and I'm not gonna put it on the turntable. I'm just gonna set it right there. I'm just gonna let that run for just a minute. And that should cure that away. Excited for NXT Battleground in Lowell this Sunday. Wow, I had no idea they had a show in town this weekend. No idea at all. That sounds like a great time though. You know, I only ever attended one NXT event, and it was their very first live event outside of their original arena. It was in San Jose, and I was there purely to see Bailey, who is a good friend. We trained together in California for years before she got signed, and I was really excited to see her return home in front of her hometown audience. And boy, the reaction she got coming through the curtain was really something. All right, these are cured up now. Oh, including a piece from underneath. Interesting. All right, yeah, they're popping off now. Again, I'm sure this is all just riveting to watch, but it is, this tedium is a necessary evil of running your own business. And that's essentially what I'm doing with 3D printing these days, is running my own business from home. So this is going to take a fair bit of cleaning here, but again, absolutely necessary. Get a little alcohol in here. I'm actually going to walk back over and see what's being said in the chat, because I wandered away for a sec. Yeah, those events sound like a lot of fun. I haven't been to a WWE event in a very long time, and in fact, you know, for someone who is ostensibly a part of the industry at the level and in the position I'm in, I honestly don't watch their programming much anymore. And it's not that they did anything wrong or that I don't like their programming. It's I'm just so busy all the time and doing stuff like this, you know, having to clean random bits of resin off of plastic film. You know, again, there's more exciting ways to spend an evening, but, you know, it's, I'm doing work for an educational nonprofit. That's something I really believe in. You know, it's work that I really enjoy. You know, if I had to choose between this and what I was doing previously, which was doing development work for educational nonprofits and for colleges, I like this a lot better. The development work, the fundraising, something never really sat right with me about that. You know, it felt like I was raising a lot of money for deans and presidents and CEOs that was never funneling down to the students, and that always felt wrong. And I'm sure that that's just my take on it, but it's just how it felt, you know. a lot of the education system has become sort of a bloated cash grab for a lot of people who don't even interact with students. So being able now to work with an organization that is very much not like that. This is a a boots on the ground organization that very much works directly with students, and they develop curriculum. They're trying to spread science awareness. Really feels important, and certainly a lot of their curriculum is the kind of stuff that I wish I'd had a bit more of when I was a kid. I kind of got all my experience with that stuff at home with my dad. My dad's a mechanical engineer, and I mean, for lack of a more genteel way to say it, he's been a science communicator my entire life, teaching not just me, not just my brother, but basically all the kids in the neighborhood and a lot of our classmates. They'd come over, and my dad helped everyone with science fair projects, and he'd take everyone out flying model rockets, and he'd be explaining exactly how they work to everyone. And I feel like I at least have a couple friends who wound up going into the sciences who have told me absolutely that it was the influence of my dad when we were kids. So that's pretty cool. These days, my dad and I mostly get to spend time together when there's something wrong with my house. He'll come over and help me work on it. He, for a guy in his mid-70s, boy, does he love working on hard projects with a lot of hard work. He really, if he finds out that I worked on house projects without him, he seems a little put out. Like, oh, you left me out? Which, I guess in some ways I can relate to that, but all right. So that's all clean now. Everything here is clean, and actually before I put that back in, I'm gonna re-level this thing, which is its own process. And for that, I'm going to need a very thin piece of paper. And I usually keep one around. This is cool. I get to show how you level a resin printer. Essentially, you want this metal piece here, when it comes down onto that screen, to come down as perfectly flat and level with it as possible, and you want it to stop just shy of the screen, because if you set it wrong, you can crack the screen, that's basically game over for the printer. All right, I always have, there we go. A receipt is a perfect piece of paper for this because it is just the right thickness. You want something real thin. All right, Go to tools. Okay, I'm going to keep this. I'm actually going to rip it in half so I get a more even across the board feel on it. Okay. Okay, so I hit the home button, and you can see, you can't see it yet because it hasn't come into screen, but you can hear it moving. In a second, you're going to see the build plate coming down. You can see the Z-axis threaded rod there spinning. Yeah, and it's coming down now. It'll enter frame in just a second. Moves very slowly, and that's because it has to have very exact movements. All right, it's coming down now, and I like to keep this just a little bit loose here so I can grab it. Essentially what you want to do is you want to have it there so that it's being pulled equally from both sides, and it has just a little bit of resistance when you go to move it. You don't want it clamped in place. All right. It's coming down now. It's sort of feeling it out. Okay, and let's see how we're doing. Yeah, that's pretty loose. We definitely want that to come down a bit more. So I'm going to go over to my fine controls here and just tell it to come down a little. Okay, that was a bit too much, so we're going to go back up by 1/10 of a centimeter. Still too tight, still too tight. Again, I know this is all very exciting television, or YouTube, or Twitch, wherever you're watching it at the moment. One more ought to do it. All right, so that feels pretty good. It feels pretty even on both sides. Okay, so I've now set that as home. Now I'm going to hit manual, and I'm just going to move it way back up. And that's going to move out of its way now, and then we'll be able to replace the vat, put some fresh resin in here, and who knows, maybe I'll get some decent prints out of here. I do notice the longer I let any of the printers sit without frequent use, the more likely they are to have failed prints. The FDM printers are definitely more guilty of that, as they're really fine-tuned, because this print bed under each corner has a little wheel like this that you can tighten or loosen, and adjusts a spring up and down so that you can get all four corners exactly level with the way that this extruder moves. There's so much room for error in that if you don't have it set correctly, you don't really take the time to get it just right, that can spell absolute disaster. And again, with the change in temperature, the change in humidity, all those factors, the springs kind of have a little bit of give here and there, and it can change how those want to behave. So you have to watch them, and I find that frequent use is a really great way to keep them running well. And you can see I've got the black filament on both of those, and that's from printing these Titanoboa vertebrae, which, again, just so cool. Yeah, so bring you back over here, get us set up, because we're not quite done here yet. All right, I'm gonna put away, this is this resin that I've been working with is it's called ABS-like, and that is because even though it is a UV curing resin, it behaves, once it's cured, more like ABS, which is a plastic that they use for a lot of things like action figures and that kind of thing. So they have a little bit of give. They're less likely to snap under pressure, less brittle. And that's really useful for a lot of things I make, like toys, because when I go to put the pieces together, they won't snap. All right, so we are looking good here. All right, I'm going to put this bed back in and clamp it down. And now, to eliminate the idea that it was the resin's fault, break out a brand new container of white resin. I'm just off camera opening it up using the same knife that bit my thumb earlier. That's going to be fun, wrestling all weekend with a thumb that's ready to start bleeding everywhere. But, the things we do for our art, right? I guess, if you don't bleed for your art, what are you doing? All right. And I got to get this off of here. Okay. There we go. And just gonna put a good amount of this resin in here. All right. And now we should be able to run that exact same print over again and have no problems this time. And again, I do like to I'll get in there beforehand with a gloved hand and kind of just give everything a quick rub down so that, if there's any errant isopropyl alcohol in there, it's not going to be an issue when this goes to cure its first layer. All right, get a paper towel here. We're just about ready to get this thing rolling again. And I'm going to put the cover back on. Again, this cover really does a great job of kind of keeping a lot of the smells and therefore a lot of the harmful vapors that curing UV resin can produce. It keeps it confined to here, and then you can hear that fan running. That runs through a charcoal filter, so, you know, very helpful there. All right, get down in my menu and let's try that exact same print again. That's the one. And we'll let it rip. And it probably won't finish on stream, but, you know, I'll be sure to post on Instagram how it came out. All right. So not the most exciting stream we've had, but I was able to get most of the stuff removed from one of these. And again, this horse tooth is just such a beautiful model. It came out so well, and you got to see some of how that process works, where you take it off the printer, remove everything, you have to clean it off with alcohol. I used the ultrasonic cleaner. And then once it was good and dry of all that alcohol, we got to put it through the curing box, which is a great little tool. And now it is a, you know, it is a solid hardened piece, and it's ready for use in the classroom. So yeah, very excited to do that. Very excited about this particular kind of work as someone who was a full-time teacher for years. The ability to make something as interesting as, you know, the vertebrae from a large snake or something like a horse tooth that teachers can then use in the classroom for a pretty reasonable price compared to getting actual samples of those. Really cool, really meaningful. Before I wrap the stream up, I'm just going to remind you again, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Wrestling Open on IWTV, or live at the White Eagle in Worcester. You can catch myself, Iron Rip Bison, Mutually Assured Destruction in action. You can also see Andy Brown, the Rabid Honey Badger, Ryan Mooney, Delmi Exo, all kinds of great talent there. It's going to be a great show. And Friday, Pro Wrestling Grind presents Emerald Sword, the qualifying matches for the Fatal 4-Way to determine the new Grind Grand Champion in July. That show is this Friday. I am in one of those 4 qualifying matches. I'll be taking on A-Game Joseph Alexander. Very excited. He's an incredible wrestler, and I'm looking forward to the challenge. So for now, that's it. That's all. I don't know, like, share, subscribe, comment, say your prayers, take your vitamins, brother. Yeah, have a good rest of your week. Hope you catch a lot of good wrestling, and I'll be back here again next Tuesday at 9. Hopefully I'll have all these done, and I'll have something a little more fun to work on. But I will see you then. Thank you all so much for tuning in.